Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're going over the governor's race in the Commonwealth of Virginia for the 2025 governor elections. Virginia along with New Jersey are the two governor's races that are up in early November. So Virginia is a very interesting race as this is currently held by Republican incumbent Glenn Youngkin, who won a very close election in 2021 after defeating Democratic former governor Terry McAuliffe. Now due to Virginia law, you are term limited as governor to one term consecutively, so it's an open race. Now, as for Virginia, just to give you a brief little look at how it voted in 2024, it voted for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump by 5.8%. That is a likely Democratic win. And interestingly enough, not too different from New Jersey, which voted for Kamala Harris by 5.9%. Now, the only difference here is the overall swing of the state. When you look at the margins, you can compare 2024 to 2020, where New Jersey swung roughly around, let me show this part right here. We saw that New Jersey swung towards Donald Trump by about 10 points. Virginia shifted towards Donald Trump from 2020 to 2024 by about 4.3 points. Now, that's how the presidential level shifted, but in 2021, Glenn Youngkin got 1.9% margin of victory, 50.57, to McAuliffe's 48.64. So obviously now this is going to be an open race. And in the Virginia governor's race, you have two candidates, Winsome Earle-Sears and Abigail Spanberger. And both of them ran essentially unopposed after the Republican candidates that were running did not qualify and meet, I believe, the amount of required signatures. Winsome Sears, the lieutenant governor, became the Republican nominee. And then on the Democratic side, the former U.S. Representative Abigail Spanberger of the 7th District also ran unopposed after LeVar Stoney, the former mayor of Richmond, withdrew from the race. So we've known that this is going to be the general election matchup for a pretty long time now. Now we're on to the general, where the polling and predictions on this one look like it's a pretty big get for the Democrats. Cook Political Report, Sablo Crystal Ball, and Race to the White House all have it as likely for the Democrats. Inside Elections has it as lean for the Democrats. So again, this would be a flip going from a red governor, Republican governor, to a Democratic governor. And when you look at the polling in this race, it makes a lot of sense. Right now in the Real Clear Politics polling average, Abigail Spanberger has 49.8% to Winsome Sears 41.9%, with 8.3% undecided or other at this current point in time. Spanberger leading by about 8 points in the polls. The Decision Desk HQ average has Spanberger at 49.6%, Sears 43.2%, with 6.4% lead for Spanberger with 7.2% undecided. In Race to the White House, the most decisive of the three, having Spanberger at 51.1%, Sears 42.4%, 6.5% undecided, 8.7% lead for Spanberger. An average of the three has Spanberger at 50.2%, Winsome Sears 42.5%, and undecided 7.3%, for an overall lead of 7.7%. So across all the polling averages, it's been a very consistent and clear Abigail Spanberger lead over Winsome Sears. Now, the only development that's changed in the month of September now going into October is that the floor for Winsome Sears has seemed to risen by about a few points. Where if you go back a few months or so, you saw Sears getting in the high 30% or so. Now in most polls, you're seeing her get around 42, 43% of the vote, and that's where things pretty much stand here. This is also in pretty interesting contrast to the New Jersey governor's race as well, which I just covered before this one yesterday, where Spanberger here, starting out around 49.8%, all she needs is 0.2% of those undecided voters to break 50% of the vote and guarantee a victory. At 49.8%, she'd probably win anyway, but only 0.2% needed to get a guaranteed victory. Whereas at the governor race in New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, the Democrats, around 48% in the Real Clear Politics polling average. So Spanberger's running right now about 1.8% ahead of Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, even though New Jersey historically has been a much more blue state than Virginia has been. Obviously, Virginia has trended towards the Democrats in recent years, but Spanberger already reaching or nearly reaching that 50% threshold suggests the chances of Winsome Sears winning this race are very, very low. It's also worth noting, at 41.9%, yes, she is losing. She's even polling even farther behind of what Jack Ciattarelli is doing at 43.3%. So this race, we've assumed for a while, was going to be a pretty big Democratic win, and now the poll data certainly seems to suggest that that is still the case. The recent polling from this one, Emerson College, very reputable polling source, has Spanberger leading over Sears 52 to 42% in this race. It should be worth noting in the off-year elections thus far, Emerson College has done pretty well with a lot of the races, like the Boston mayoral race. I remember being won some of the special elections and the House seats as well. They've been pretty spot on. So 10-point lead for Spanberger over Sears is certainly very, very significant. The Trafalgar Group, which is one of President Trump's closely aligned pollsters, has Spanberger leading over Sears 47-42. And if you use the average trick that I use for weighted polls, which is that when it's a poll affiliated with a Republican or Democrat campaign or pollster or such, I usually shift it 5 points in the opposite direction to account for the bias of the poll. That would put Spanberger right around that 10-point Democratic win. So the polling data seems to suggest Abigail Spanberger is certainly winning this race and winning it by a pretty large margin. The question is going to be, when everything is said and done, how much does Abigail Spanberger win this race by? It's possible Winsome Sears could mathematically pull off an upset, but again, you just see the 49.8, 49.6. It's really tough to see a pathway to victory for Winsome Sears at this current point in time. Now, as for this governor's race in Virginia, we can look at the past two governor's races and sort of get an idea of how this is going based on the past. First, we can look at the governor's race in 2021, the most recent one, where Glenn Youngkin defeated the Democratic governor Terry McAuliffe 48.5 to 46.8 in the final polling averages. Now, I'm about to go to the election results in just one moment, but the final polling data showed Youngkin leading by 1.7, and it was pretty much spot on when everything was said and done. Now, for the 2017 one in Virginia as well, this was in President Trump's first term, the polling data was actually very tight in the final average for Real Clear Politics. Ralph Northam, the Democrat, was leading 47.7%. Ed Gillespie got 44.4% in that polling aggregate. Now, what actually ended up happening was in the election results for 2021, Glenn Youngkin ends up winning 50.6 to 48.6, roughly around a 2-point win. So the polling data in Virginia for 2021 was pretty much spot on in predicting Glenn Youngkin winning by that large margin, or by that very close margin, in this race. As for 2017, however, the polling data missed it by a little bit. Even though it ended up being 3.3%, Ralph Northam ended up winning the governor's race in Virginia by 8.9%, where essentially all the undecided voters ended up breaking for Northam in this race, Gillespie getting 45%. Right now, based on the polling data that we're looking at for Virginia at this current point in time, in terms of the percentages and where the candidates are, it's looking more like Virginia for 2025 is going to be more similar to this Virginia 2017 map than the Virginia 2021 map. That's not really a big surprise. It's kind of an understatement at this point. Glenn Youngkin was able to run with Joe Biden as president, where Biden's approval ratings started getting really bad towards September and October, and that certainly hurt him nationally, but it also hurt Democrats down ballot in Virginia. This time around, that does not seem to be the case, and quite honestly, it's the opposite, where President Trump and the Republicans' numbers are getting hurt down ballot in Virginia, and that's going to potentially hurt Winsome Sears in this governor's race. Now, Northam defeated Gillespie by 8.9%. Do we see something like this for 2025? It's very possible, because the polling data right now, assuming like the 2021 trend continues, where the polling data ends up being pretty spot on here, that'd be right around that 8.9% mark. Well, this average is 7.9, 6.4, 8.7. It's not too far from the outcome of that race. And again, there's still a good amount of undecided voters, 8.3% in Real Clear Politics, 7.2 in Decision Desk, and 6.5 in Race to the White House. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch for in Virginia to see how this all ultimately breaks down. Kind of like with the New Jersey video I mentioned, what those undecided voters and other voters decide to do in terms of which candidate they support is what's going to make or break this race. Now, even if it's split it 50-50 here of that 8.3%, we would see something around a 53 to 44, 45-ish win here for Spanberger over Sears, and that'd be more in line with 2017. Now, there is a big possibility that this is a governor election in a year that's supposed to be very friendly for the Democrats, that we could potentially see a governor's race where the Democrat, Abigail Spanberger, defeats Winsome Sears by more than 10 points. That is certainly possible, and the polling data certainly shows there's a possibility that could happen. In terms of actual prediction rankings, though, it doesn't really matter too much if it's an 8-point Democratic win or 10-point governor win at the governor level, because both of which are in the likely considered Democratic category scale that we use here, which is 5 to 15 points is a likely Democratic win. So that doesn't really change things too much on that standpoint. However, in terms of down ballot races like lieutenant governor, attorney general, and state elections down ballot, whether it's 8 or 10 or 11, 12-point win, that can make a very big difference in terms of the parties controlling certain government offices and such, and elections and such in that situation in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So what happens there is very big. I think what you're mostly looking at, though, is the 2017 Virginia governor map and seeing how close is Abigail Spanberger either coming to replicating this map or even expanding on the margins. It's just some key areas to look out for on election night. You're going to be watching these 3 counties in the Northern Virginia area. Loudoun County, Fairfax County, Prince William County. These are 3 counties right outside of Washington, D.C. Huge population counties, big population growth here over the last 20, 25 years or so. This is where a lot of the people that move into Virginia that work in the government jobs are living in these 3 key areas. And especially after the government shutdown and a lot of them getting laid off at the start of President Trump's first term, that could certainly spike turnout in these areas as well, where these blue margins like Loudoun County was a 20-point win for Northam over Gillespie. In 2024 for Trump versus Harris, Trump actually, let me pull up the 24 results here, it actually was around a 16-point win. So 4 points better than what the governor's race in 2017 was. That's an important area to watch for, especially to see how Abigail Spanberger is performing in those numbers. Now, it is, as again, I've been pretty doom or gloom on Winsome Sears' chances in this race because I really don't believe Winsome Sears has a chance of winning this race in all likelihood. But you could be looking as well at the 2021 map and saying, well, can Winsome Sears replicate an 11-point loss in Loudoun County, a 30-point loss in Fairfax, a 15-point loss in Prince William? It is technically possible because Glenn Youngkin just did it in 2021, but the way the race is shaping up right now, it really does not seem very likely that Winsome Sears will even come close to sniffing what Glenn Youngkin got in 2021. I think the 2017 map is the most sense for what the map will end up looking like, but again, we'll have to wait and see how it all goes. But again, 8.9%, Democrat Spanberger could win by even more than that. She could win by less than that. We'll have to wait and see. But you're looking at Loudoun, you're looking at Prince William, and you're looking at Fairfax. You're also looking down here in Virginia Beach. If Virginia Beach is going blue, that likely means Winsome Sears is not going to have a chance at winning this race. In a very close election like Glenn Youngkin had, where he won in 2021, Virginia Beach was red, Chesapeake was red, and the margins in Suffolk were a lot smaller. If these 3 are all going blue, very good chance we're seeing Abigail Spanberger win, and win pretty early into the night. That's also another important note to make for Virginia, is its polls close, I do believe, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So in terms of when we should start getting results, around 7 p.m. is when we're going to start seeing the polls close and start seeing results trickle in there. So we should find out probably pretty early on in the night if the polling data is correct. We should probably know by around like 8 o'clock, probably at like the latest or maybe even earliest, depending. 8 o'clock, 8:30, we should have a pretty good idea at who's winning this race and maybe who won this race. I don't think it gets called immediately the polls are closed, but I think within the hour, I wouldn't be shocked if it did. But DC suburbs, Virginia Beach, 2 key areas I'm watching. As for my prediction for this race, this is really no much of a surprise. You've heard me talk about this in this video. I have it going likely for the Democrat, for Abigail Spanberger, in between 5 and 15%. How it ultimately shakes up is going to be a wait and see here. It could break 10%. The polls certainly suggest it could break 10%. Right now, I have it right around that number, right around that 9.5 to 10-point margin. It could certainly exceed that, but I have it right around that 9.5-point number, about another half point or so better than what Terry McAuliffe was able, or than what Ralph Northam was able to do in the 2017 Virginia governor's race. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you did, leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts on this video and any other video ideas you'd like to see me do in the future. I do have some exciting video news coming out soon, as I just did New Jersey's governor video yesterday. I'm doing a New York City governor video, or New York City mayoral video, coming out tomorrow as well, that you're not going to want to miss out on. And over the next few weeks, I will be working on my election night videos for New Jersey, for Virginia, and hopefully for New York City. So I'll be trying to get those out as well, that you're not going to want to miss out on. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, make sure to hit like and subscribe if you did, and I hope to see you in a future video.